What up? At Jack's suggestion, and I'm sorry, I'm not bringing it back. But, we got to do a different hello every single day. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 ACC Scenarios, brought to you by our good friends at Texas Beef House. Use our code SECOM10 when you go to texasbeefhouse.com on your next order and save 10%. All right, Top 5 ACC Scenarios. Don't kind of think of these in order, because I think anything that's shown us the last couple of days of reporting on this is going to be maybe more happenstance than a lot of things, or like there's not a clear path any way. Like there's a lot of roads in the ACC, future, and all of them have obstacles. So let's talk about that. Number 5. FSU and Clemson go to the Big 12. Look, if this thing ended tomorrow, if the lawsuits were settled and they say, okay, you got to pay us $175 million over the next 7 years and you're out, then and they genuinely did not have a home at any other conference, they could go to Brett Yormark and be like, we're in. And Brett Yormark would be like, I'll make that happen, because we kind of think that would happen. But this is probably not their first choice, because what they're trying to do is make $80 to $90 million a year. Now, is that a fool's errand on FSU and Clemson's part? It might be. And I've said this many times, and I'll say it again, and I hope you drive this home. This is not about FSU and Clemson just being mad that they don't make that. This is about FSU and Clemson being mad that Indiana makes that Rutgers makes that a bunch of these teams are getting all this money based on an agreement they made 100 years ago to be in the Big Ten Conference or the SEC, and they've not put forth the effort in football that Florida State and Clemson have. That's the bottom line. Now, is that right? That's a matter of opinion. But it's more about that than Florida State being mad that Alabama has that money, or Clemson being mad that South Carolina, their rival, has that money, given the fact that, particularly in Clemson's case, when it comes to South Carolina, they've been historically far better than South Carolina, and it's not even close. Number 4, a reformed ACC. You like my little X-Men 97 shapeshifter here? So this one's the trickiest one. To avoid being sued for wantonly hurting another entity in court, to avoid multiple lawsuits from the teams that would be left out. Basically, the way I see this happening is that Florida State and Clemson leave the ACC. The ACC then collapses. ESPN uses their opt-out deal to basically end the television contract, which would start everything anew. And then Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, and others reform an ACC that is more palatable to television ratings, smaller, and pays them more money. That is really hard to pull off, though. There are a lot of moving parts in that, but I do think that is something that has been discussed, especially given the Magnificent 7 teams last year that all got together about the future of the league and revenue distribution and the like. Now, only 2 of them are suing the league, and then you've got North Carolina out in the fringe kind of doing the wait-and-see game. But, there would be a possibility for that. I just think it would be extremely difficult to pull off, and one of those things that certainly it's possible, but each cup that you have to throw a ball in is smaller and smaller on the way through to make it happen. Number 3, a free-for-all, absolute chaos. Florida State and Clemson leave, they don't go to the same place, everybody spread across, and then we get 3 24-team conferences or something weird like that that are all spread across the country, and the Super League begins. That, to me, is more likely than the actual last one, just because it feels like that's where it's going, and eventually people are going to get pushed out and shoved off, and if you're creating something that's for television before it's for anything else, which is most of college football right now, a free-for-all in the absolute doomsday scenario, that could happen. Now, again, I still don't think that's as likely, given the fact that there's too many moving parts to really make that happen and make it work, especially with television contracts and everything going on. It would be easier for more of a micro move for everybody. But again, who knows when it comes to college football realignment. Number 2, FSU and Clemson and others to the Big Ten. So you take some of those schools and they go and they wind up in the Big Ten. You'll hear a lot of things about AAU and all this other stuff. I just have a hard time believing that the Big Ten wouldn't want to get into the only part of the country that they're not in, which is the Southeast, or the South. They're not there. They could be the true nationwide conference, which is kind of appears what their goal is. Tony Petitti staying out of this. And again, he's not going to say anything until the end. And also, our FSU and Clemson, anybody else like North Carolina, Virginia, whoever they would want. I still don't buy a lot of this on Virginia, but we'll see. I mean, maybe there's something I'm wrong about them, and I'm certainly willing to take that. But are they going to be another fit? And that brings us to our number 1. I think FSU and Clemson to the SEC and the rest of the ACC staying together is a more likely scenario than a lot of people want to admit right now. Like this morning, as of today, FSU and Clemson don't have a home in the SEC. Particularly, I guess there's no additive value for Florida State, as they say, but if this is about television matchups and making the best TV matchups and being the league that has the best games week in and week out, can you honestly tell me that Greg Sankey is going to say no to them? Can you honestly tell me if they're in the water that Greg Sankey is going to go, no, they're not additive. They're going to be, FSU's not a good partner. They're combative. Bro, you just took Texas. Like, combative. They're the kings of combative. Florida State, minor league combative compared to Texas. Minor league. Clemson, Oklahoma, you just Texas and Oklahoma. You're going to take Florida State and Clemson because you're adding 2 more teams that are going to make your TV matchups, even for the ones that aren't that good. Kentucky and Vanderbilt don't get as many ratings as, say Georgia and Tennessee do. But guess what? You'll get more ratings on Vanderbilt games when Clemson's playing them, won't you? You'll get more ratings on Mississippi State games if Florida State's playing them, won't you? And then you'll be able to go to the TV contract and be like, give me all the money, because we don't have Rutgers versus Indiana. We don't have Maryland versus Minnesota in our league. The worst we can do is Vanderbilt versus, and I'm not even dogging Kentucky, they're good. The worst we can do is when Vanderbilt plays somebody, and even still people watch it. So you can't tell me, again, if FSU and Clemson are truly available, that Greg Sankey is not going to go, yeah, let's do that thing. Right now he doesn't have to, and right now they can say all the things that they want. But until Florida State and Clemson are free of the ACC, all this is speculation, and I truly believe that this is probably where they end up. This is where I think they end up. Maybe not in this round of realignment, but on the next one, Florida State and Clemson will eventually be in the SEC. That feels a little inevitable to me. I know there's a lot of people out there that might say I'm crazy, but I do think that they're doing this to get there. And as much as FSU might be bitter against Greg Sankey for campaigning to get him out of the playoff, well, if you can't beat him, join him. That's what Texas did. And if you're pulling all these Texas-like moves, why not do the same thing? So we'll see. All of this has a lot to be worked out, and we have no idea what's going to happen. They're still embroiled in lawsuits. That is the top 5. Let's wrap it up.